the desires of his sons. After Ulan's passing, Wang Lung no longer worked the fields with the same energy. The absence of his wife, who had been by his side for so long, left a deep sorrow in his heart. But life continued, and his children grew older, each harboring their own desires. The eldest son's ambition. Wang Lung's eldest son had always loved studying. With the money his father had earned through hard labor, he was sent to a good school, where he learned to read and write. One day, he came to Wang Lung and said, "Father, it is time to stop farming. We should buy a fine house and live in the city." Wang Lung was taken aback. "We have lived by the land. It has fed us and sustained us. How can you think of leaving it?" But the eldest son was firm. "Father, the world is changing. Owning land is not as important as having wealth and living a better life." Wang Lung realized that his son saw the world differently, but deep inside, he felt a bitter sadness. He had spent his life devoted to the land, yet his children no longer valued it. The second son's desire. Wang Lung's second son had always been drawn to business. Unlike his brother, he cared little for farming or books. His interest lay in making money. One day, he approached Wang Lung and said, "Father, I want to sell the land and use the money to start a business. Farming will never make us truly rich, but trade can." Wang Lung shook his head. "You do not understand the land. The land never betrays us. If you chase money, one day, it will abandon you." But the second son smiled. "Father, you do not understand the times. Money is power now. I will follow my own path." Wang Lung sighed deeply and lowered his head. The youngest son's corruption. Wang Lung's youngest son was the most spoiled. From an early age, he desired fine clothes, good food, and the luxury of being served by others. One day he said, "Father, why must we live in such a simple way? I want to enjoy life like the children of wealthy families." Wang Lung became furious. "Do you know how much your mother suffered? We have lived by the land. If you abandon it, you will lose everything in the end." But the youngest son sneered. "Father, you are old. I will live my life as I please." He left for the city, indulging in a life of luxury and excess, until he eventually squandered his fortune. Wang Lung's realization. Standing before his fields, Wang Lung let out a heavy sigh. His heart ached at the thought that his children no longer cherished the land. "I have worked for this land. I have protected it, yet my sons wish to leave it behind." He realized that he was no longer young. One day, this land would no longer be in his hands, and his children would go their own ways. But he whispered to himself, "Even if I leave, the land will remain. The land does not change." With that, he grasped the soil in his hands once more. No matter what his sons desired, his life had always been and would always be bound to the earth. Chapter 10: The Future of the Land. Wang Lung had grown old. As he gazed across his vast fields, he realized that his entire life had been intertwined with the land. In his youth, every handful of soil had been precious, and alongside Ulan, he had built a life here. But now, his children no longer valued the earth as he did. The choices of his sons. His eldest son had become a learned official, living in the city and embracing a new way of life, leaving the land behind. His second son had become a businessman, driven by wealth and trade. His youngest, lost to indulgence and excess, had squandered his fortune. One day, the eldest and second sons came to visit their father. "Father, it is time to sell the land. It is too vast for us to manage," the eldest son said. Wang Lung looked at them in shock. "What? Sell the land?" "Father," the eldest son continued, "land prices are high. If we sell now, we can live in a better place." The second son added, "Farming is outdated. We must adapt to the times." Wang Lung's hands trembled. He could not comprehend his son's words. "You do not understand what this land means. It has sustained our family, given us life, and yet you wish to sell it?" His sons remained silent. Wang Lung's decision. Wang Lung walked through the fields. His hands were covered in soil, and his heart was filled with memories of the past. He had been born on this land, built a family upon it, and would eventually leave his last breath here. He looked at his grandchildren. They were still too young to understand the value of the earth, but perhaps one day they would. Calling his sons once more, he said firmly, "You may wish to sell this land, but as long as I live, it will remain mine." His sons sighed, knowing they could not change his mind. Wang Lung's resolve was unshakable. The fate of the land. Wang Lung knew his time was nearing its end, but he was certain of one thing. This land will remain. Even after I am gone, the land will not change. Taking his grandchildren's hands, he whispered, "One day, when you are older, you will understand the worth of this soil. The land never betrays us. Those who hold on to the earth will always endure." That evening, Wang Lung sat in front of his home, gazing across the vast fields. The setting sun bathed the land in red, and a soft wind blew across the fields. He slowly closed his eyes. He did not know what his children would do with the land after he was gone. But he believed in one thing: this land would endure, and one day, those who understood its value would return. "I was born on this land, I have lived on this land, and now I will die on this land. My life began with the earth. Everything I achieved was upon the earth, and in the end, I will return to the earth."